Yo, 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 yo. What up, Common Sense community, crowd, crew? Issue X here with another episode of CSP. This is a special episode. This is going to be the first in a series of interviews where I interview creators, owners, people in the industry, and even collectors, people like yourself out there in the viewing audience. That's what we're going to be doing. The first guest that we have, well, before we even get into that, it's got a really dope guest, really dope guest, someone I've known, I say since about 2021. We talked on the phone. We've kicked it for a while. They're doing really dope things. We've supported their stuff. We've asked you to support their stuff. Big contributor to the Comic Sense community, someone we have a lot of respect for. We're going to get into that. I'm going to bring him on. We're going to go ahead and kick it for a little bit, chop it up, let you guys kick it with him as well. Before I get into that, got this nice little ring light here. Want to keep it on. It really isn't expensive, but you know the deal. Like and follow Comic Sense on Facebook and join our Comic Sense Facebook group. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Follow us at Comic Sense on Instagram. Find us on the Twitter. That is what it is. Again, if you're watching on the page, go over to YouTube, click like, click view for at least 10 seconds. Do something. Don't do nothing. That having been said, I'm about to bring in somebody I have a high degree of respect for from the first time I talked to him. This is a man out of New York City. He's wearing so many hats in this comic book community and in the world at large. Patrick Hickey Jr. of Legacy Comix. We're going to get into it. Listen, a lot of flowers need to be given to this man. We're going to give them to him right now. Shout out to the people.
What's up? What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Super happy to be here, man.
Hold on. Let me bring up the comments. Shout out to Jerry Whitman, J-Pop, Sean Mallory, Peter, Christopher Jules Booth. He knows a thing or two about Legacy Comix. Shout out to Walter Danver. Walter, up in the stream. Good to have you up in here. So Patrick. First of all, before we get into it, I want you to tell the people a little bit about a lot of the things that you do, because it's a lot. It's a lot.
So, how much time do we have? So I am my full-time job. I am a assistant professor of media and communications and the director of the journalism program at Kingsborough Community College in Brooklyn, New York. I'm also the director of I'm the chairman of the City University of New York Journalism Discipline Council, which means I oversee all of the journalism being taught in all of the City University of New York. I help out all the professors teaching in that degree field. I'm a former NBC editor. I've written 7 books on video game history that are in over 2,000 libraries worldwide, Harvard, Yale, Stanford. I'm an accomplished video game voice actor. I just did 65 voices for WrestleQuest, which is a new Japanese wrestling RPG that's on Nintendo Switch, Xbox Series X, PS5. I also just voiced Dracula in the Renfield video game that just came out, as well as about 10 other voices. So, yeah, and I am the editor-in-chief, owner, pretty much in-house letterer, and toilet scrubber IT specialist at Legacy Comix.
Okay. See, this is a lot. You didn't have to take a breath. Like, you just didn't even have to take a breath. This is a lot. So first of all, we got to get this out of the way right now. We got people up in the room chilling. We're going live to YouTube. We're going live to Facebook. Can we get a voice?
Sure. Let's see. So I've done a lot of trailer work. So it'd kind of be like,
in a world, one man, one tortilla, rated PG-13. Oh my God.
Or like in WrestleQuest, I am the voice of Macho Man Randy Savage in that game. So it's kind of like,
let me tell you something, Ish. I'm gonna go off the top rope.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. Can you dig it?
So yeah, lots of I played a Catholic priest in a game called The Padre, where I was stuck inside of a house with zombies.
Now, bro, you have this dark English accent. My name is the Padre Ish, and I travel through this house and kill zombies with all manner of weapons and shit and blah blah blah.
So yeah, that's
So this is a Brooklyn accent that you have when you're not doing voiceovers, right?
It's just a little bit of that.
Listen, if I close my eyes and I listen to you, especially that Catholic priest, it's like I'm listening to someone else. This is really amazing. Really dope. Really impressed. Really impressed
Thank
with this. So tell me how you got into doing the video game novels and then doing voiceover work in video games. Like that's really
So
intriguing to me.
sure. So I've been a journalist for about 20 years. Started writing for my school newspaper, then went to another college and was editor-in-chief of that paper. Then I started covering minor league baseball and then minor league hockey. And then I went to graduate school. And all throughout that entire process, I would cover sports, but I would also cover entertainment. I was reviewing. Yes, he's right. Absolutely. Chris is absolutely right. I've also been in bands before, so but that's another thing. He's a wise ass, Chris. Chris is terrible. He's like the worst.
I had to throw that up there.
The worst person to have a serious meeting with, because after the meeting's over, you're gonna have a conversation with him about everything everyone said. But video games are always like a huge part of it. And when I went to NBC after graduate school, I covered 3 seasons of Saturday Night Live. I covered the Romney-Obama election. I covered a ton of hockey, but then I started interviewing video game developers. So like before that, it was just I would write reviews on video games. When I got to NBC, I started to do like hardcore like interviews with the developers of The Last of Us, God of War, NHL, Madden, UFC, and I started building all these connections. Yeah. And after I left NBC, because I got offered a full-time professorship, so it's kind of like when you work full-time for NBC, they kind of own your soul. During Hurricane Sandy, they sent a car to my house. I had no power. It was just me and my wife, and they were like, "Oh, send your wife with family. We're gonna send a company car to come pick you up. You need to come to work today." And when you teach college, that doesn't happen. Oh, if I call up my boss and I'm like, I need to stay home today. Okay, Pat, see you tomorrow. And it's like, what? Wait, so it's so different. So when I left NBC and I was just focusing on teaching, and I was still writing, never stopped writing. I'm also the editor-in-chief and owner of ReviewFix.com. It's an entertainment website that I've established since 2009. Got over 30,000 articles published there. I just kept doing the video game stuff. And then one of my students asked me, "Oh, what do you have to do to write a book?" And I felt like the biggest piece of garbage in the entire world, because I'm like, I've worked for NBC, I've done this, I've done that, but I haven't written a book. So I'm like, yo, I need to write a book. And I came into my man cave in another house, because I live in a new house now. And I was just surrounded by all my comics and all my video games and stuff. And I'm just like, what is this book going to be about? And then I'm just like, what about like a VH1 behind the music style book with all the developers that made your favorite games, like WWF Arcade, WrestleMania the arcade game, Mutant League Football, Mortal Kombat, Yars' Revenge, all these like games that a whole bunch of people grew up with. So I started contacting all of these developers on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, and they all started saying yes. And I ended up pitching the book, and I ended up getting an answer from a bunch of publishers within like 3 or 4 days, because I had like 4 sample chapters already written. This was like Halloween of 2016. So then by Thanksgiving, like 3.5 weeks later, I had a publishing deal in place. And then I just finished the first book. And after I finished the first book, all these people that didn't get back to me at the end of the first book started to get back to me. And I'm like, oh my God, I might have enough for like a second book. So then I wrote some more and I showed it to my publisher. And I'm like, could we do a second book? And they're like, no. And I'm like, what? And they're like, you have enough here for like 3 books. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, you have an adventure book, you have a first-person shooter book, and you have a sports game book. So like they're like, we want to sign you to a 3-book deal. And I'm like,
yeah, they were thinking. They were thinking.
They were thinking. Yep. So they signed me to a 3-book deal, and then I did those 3, and then I was just like, I had so much fun doing sports, first-person shooter, and adventure that I was just like, yo, what if we move from genres to consoles? And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, I want to do a Sega Genesis book, I want to do a PlayStation book, and I want to do a PlayStation 2 book. And they were like, all right. And then they signed me to another 3-book deal. And the 3rd book, the book number 7, came out in March of this year. So that's my 7th and not last book, but like for right now, the last book, because I never expected to own a comic book company. I never expected to finally get Condry off the ground. Condry was something that I wrote when I was 18. I'm 40 now, and I could never find an artist. I went through 4 different artists before I found Kieran Quinn. I never expected to work for lesser known comics. Like I've been a journalist and a college professor, and then all this other stuff started falling into place. So like after the first book,
Okay, hold on. I gotta
yeah,
stop you. Let me stop you there.
yeah, man,
Because you mentioned
a
some
lot,
things that we're definitely gonna get into. I want to get into
yeah, man,
Condry. I want to get into
sure,
Legacy. If you
yeah, man,
can, I'd like to touch on lesser known comics where you feel comfortable with,
sure,
what
sure,
you feel like saying. I remember
absolutely,
when you were at
yeah,
lesser known comics. I remember the transition
yeah,
to
man,
Legacy and doing your own thing, and I remember
sure,
some of the frustrations that you were, dealing with
oh yeah,
in the whole nine. So I
I'm a
definitely
straight
want to get to
shooter, yeah,
there.
man,
But
mm-hmm,
before we do that, first of all, I
yeah,
want to commend you.
thank you,
I think the most important thing that you do, and we are all members of this comic community, love this community. You already know how we are at Comic Sense, our community, how you are. But I have to give you props and commend you for teaching. I think it
thank you,
is one
sir,
of the most important occupations that a person can have. So I have to take the time. No, it's a comic book show, people, but listen, this is really important. Um, it's necessary, it's needed. I think it's the best way, really the best and purest way just to give back. I know it's an occupation, but I think it's the purest way of giving back by teaching our future generations and anything, passing on knowledge and doing it in a professional capacity is amazing. It's really amazing. So I want to commend you and give you props for that. I also want to say I'm really jealous because you have 7 books. And as a
yeah,
writer, right, one of the things that I feel like for me personally, the ability to leave something behind, and the way to do that, to me, the most sensible way to do that is in written form, to leave a legacy, to leave something behind that somebody can touch, art, what have you. But for me as a writer, something published and distributed, in a wide range, and your books being in universities and college, that's really, really awesome. So we're gonna get into it because we could just go, we could
yeah,
hit
man,
review fix off, we could do so many things, but the people want to talk comics. But
sure, yeah,
before
let's
we do
do it,
that, I
man,
got a question for you.
yeah, man,
I'm gonna hit you with a Patrick Hickey Jr. question.
yeah,
One game, one
whew,
console. That's it.
whew.
What are you taking?
One game, one console. I'm either taking my Condry Game Boy
Mm. Mm.
with Pokemon Red
Pokemon
because
Red.
I mean we could just play that like over and over, and there's just so many ways to play it. I've played all of the challenges, like try and beat the game with an entire team of Caterpie, with an entire team of Ratatat,
Hmm.
that, or I would go like Xbox 360 with Fallout 3 or
Yeah.
Fallout New Vegas,
Yo, that's where I would
because
go. Xbox,
yeah,
Fallout.
Fallout's so good. That game got me through my first year of teaching, coming home and just beating the living
Which
crap
one?
out of
Three
things
or
in the
three or New
wasteland.
Vegas?
3. Vegas was my first year of graduate school. So it's like those 2 games are like huge for me because it's like I would come home from just like a long ass day and just be like, I'm going to the wasteland, baby. Like I'm just
Listen,
gonna mess shit up,
I still go there
So
in Fallout 4. 3 was it for
yeah,
me.
man.
New Vegas. Okay, I love New Vegas, but 3,
Yeah.
playing New Vegas
3 is
after 3, it's like
yeah.
playing Skyrim after playing Oblivion. Like Oblivion was it. You know what I mean? So
I
for me,
agree.
it
I
would be
agree.
Fallout 3 or Oblivion,
Mm-hmm.
with Xbox
Yeah,
360. That's what it would be for me.
absolutely.
It's awesome,
So
man.
good.
It's so
Yeah,
awesome.
man.
So yeah, let's talk about comics. Let's
Yeah,
talk
man.
about comics. Let's talk about Legacy. For those who don't know, and as Patrick Hickey has said, owner, chief editor, inker, writer, creator at Legacy Comix, which evolved from
From lesser known comics and from
lesser
being an
known comics.
18-year-old, and yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so tell us that story.
Yeah.
First of all, tell us, you were collecting comics as a kid. Comics was your thing your whole life, or?
Oh yeah. I've got the issue like right over there hanging up. It's a Spectacular Spider-Man where Puma is like ripping Spider-Man's face off. It's from like 1990. That's probably the first comic that I ever read from start to finish. So I was like 6 years old, but I had been collecting like before then from the newsstand at like 4 or 5. My dad would just buy me stuff and I would just grab it. And was a huge Ghost Rider Dan Ketch guy when that, like, I was way too young to be reading that volume of Ghost Rider, but like, oh my god, like Scarecrow Ghost Rider stuff, like 91. Oh, and then the whole Todd McFarlane Spider-Man run, and then like I remember when Image started to come up. Man, like I felt like that was such a great time to be a comic book fan. Like 90, 91, 92, 93. Oh, I had so much fun. And a lot of people are going to talk about like the gimmick covers and like that was a terrible time for comics and blah, blah, blah. But I had so much fun with all of that stuff. So
It's a lot of
comics
fun.
and video games. Yeah, comics and video games always been a huge part. But the thing is like 90, 91, you weren't reading, playing video games, you know? And I've always been this avid reader, and
Same.
I just super connected with Spider-Man. I love Batman as well. Batman and Robin. Like I remember when Jason Todd died, I remember my dad buying me those single issues and just watching the Joker like pummel the living shit out of Jason Todd. And I'm just like, this is not like, because the cartoons that we watched in 88, 89, 90, it was like, meanwhile, back in the Hall of Justice, and it was fun.
Right. Very lighthearted.
It was,
Nobody got punched.
Spider-Man and the Amazing Friends, you know.
No
so
punches
fun,
were ever thrown.
But then to watch Joker just beat the piss out of Jason Todd. And then I remember reading as a super young kid, Killing Joke, you know, and watching Venom stalk the living crap out of Spider-Man.
Listen,
you know,
I remember when Venom first came on the scene, and Spider-Man would often he ran. Like he would often admit that he was afraid of Venom.
Yeah,
I mean, tough stuff back in the day. Go on, please.
So good, you know. And
also, you didn't get Kraven's Last Hunt when it first came out.
No.
Yeah. No. So yeah, that was the stuff that got me, was like Kraven's Last Hunt and things like Spider-Man tricking Sabretooth to rip his face off, and you know, when Hercules got beat to death by the Masters of Evil, like tough, you know, those were the things, you know, that was my era. The 90s were a lot of fun though. I have to agree with you there. A lot of fun. You got Death of Superman. You get that new X-Men book. A lot of cool things were happening. You got a new Ghost Rider, Glow in the Dark. Like really cool things were happening in the 90s for a kid to a teenager growing up reading books. And the Image, of course, the Image, you know, the onset of Image and what those 7 artists did. Really fun, really fun times. Okay.
You're gonna laugh because it's like everyone talks about like Youngblood and Spawn and stuff like that, but it was just like, for me, like Shadowhawk was such a freaking cool concept when I was a kid. This character has AIDS, and like those covers, those Valentino covers. It's so funny because I'm editing. I also edit people's fiction work. I have some clients that I work with, and I was over spending some time with one of the people that I was editing their memoir, and she's like, "Oh, I have a bunch of comics for you," and I was like, "Okay," and she had a Lucy of Shadowhawk #1, and I have it already, you know. But it was like, I'm like, this is like the perfect reader copy. Like, I'm just going to have this around. So like, whenever I need inspiration, I'm just going to open it up. And it's just like to see Valentino go from like Guardians of the Galaxy, which was a lot of fun. And those comics moved a lot more than people thought, you know, those Guardians of the Galaxy.
It was not fun. It was
Shadowhawk was fun.
You like Guardians? No.
I liked Guardians.
No, it was like,
I went back and got into them, but not
reading Brute Force. You remember Brute Force? you remember Brute Force? Like, they were like Weapon X animal people called Brute Force. It was some of the stuff Marvel put out, or when Clive Barker put out his some of his stuff was actually pretty good. But anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. So it was just, you know, it was just fun. It's fun. You know, I love going back and, you know, listening to podcasts now and having people throw out like random stuff and going back. And I picked up the Baron Blood Captain America a couple months ago, like when Captain America like just cuts Baron Blood's head off, because I'm like, Captain America would never do anything like that. And I came across that issue. I'm like, oh my God, I need this, you know? So I love history.
He pushed Enchantress pretty hard.
Yeah, man.
Like, it was a hard push.
I love that stuff. So yeah, man.
Yeah, Baron Blood. Well, Baron Blood was actually one of my favorite characters that you didn't get to see a lot of. Makes sense that Captain America did what he did because of who he is, but and obviously, the Nazi thing and the whole nine, but the character, the power set was really dope to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
It had to be done. So you go from reading comics, your dad getting you comics, do you eventually start collecting comics? Are you a hardcore collector at as you're coming
Oh
up,
yeah.
or
Yeah, absolutely. I would say 12, 13, 14. So now we're getting to 96, 97. I'm still picking up stuff, but then 98, 99. Now I'm 15, 16. Hormones are going. I'm
Mhm,
noticing parts of the female anatomy, those Robbie Liefeld pectoral muscles on women, not
mhm.
on Captain America, and I didn't
The
read
Mike
comics.
Diodatos.
Yeah, I didn't read comics as much,
Mhm,
like 16, 17, 18, 19, and then I got in a serious car accident when I was 18 and had a cane for a little while. So I was like this 6'4", 240-pound guy with a cane. Looked like kind of like an episode of Seinfeld. I was like Kramer walking through the streets of Brooklyn and stuff. And I had a lot of time to reconnect and start reading again. And I immediately discovered Brian Michael Bendis and
mm.
Sam and Twitch, um, his Daredevil stuff with
So
Alice
you're talking like
Believe and
early 2000s?
yeah, and that like reconnected me with comics, and it's kind of like for me, it's like one of the reasons when we first started Legacy, somebody was like, one of the people on the team was like, "Oh, what are your goals?" And I'm just like, "I want to write like 3 series at the same time." They're like, "That's crazy." I'm like, "That's what Bendis would do." That's like prime Bendis. That's what he would do. He could write 3 series a month. I'm like, I could do that shit. Like, blah, 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 blah. And
That's got to be tough.
it is. And the thing is, we're at a quarterly schedule at Legacy. So it's like, I'm doing like 3 books a quarter, but it's like, if we had the resources, I could totally like Condry. We've come out with up to issue 5, but I have Condry up to like issue 12 written already. Like I'm ready to go. I'm trying to build the audience this way. I can release more. We did Job 0, 1, and 2. The entire first arc is done. So like the first 7 issues of the Job are done. I'm just sitting on them. I'm like trying to,
Mhm.
build. So like yeah, seeing what Brian Michael Bendis did with Daredevil like totally made me reconnect with the older Daredevil stuff, which I didn't read when I was a kid, and introduced me really to like I wasn't really formally introduced to Frank Miller until probably like 2001, and then when I was complete game changer, because it's like you
Mhm.
got 300, you've got all the Batman stuff, you've got the
Mhm.
Daredevil stuff, and I'm
Daredevil,
just like, yeah, and I'm like,
Sin
Frank
City,
Miller. Yeah, Sin City, another one. I mean, I'm just looking like I have a whole shelf of like Frank Miller stuff, and like
Ronin.
yeah, yeah, Ronin. Oh, whew. And then the Wolverine stuff with Claremont. Like,
Mhm.
oh my, like there's it's just like banger after banger, And then the movies started coming out. The Daredevil movie came out. We won't talk about that too much, but I still enjoy it. But like the
I
Watchmen
enjoyed it.
movie
I
came
liked it.
out. I liked it too. I mean, especially like when he pulls the tooth out. I'm like, oh, that's from Ninja Scroll. Like they took out like there was some manga and anime in there and
Mhm.
stuff like that too. But like then I found out about like the Watchmen, and then I found out about V for Vendetta and From Hell, and then I obviously got into Alan Moore
Alan
and then
Moore.
Neil Gaiman and Preludes and Nocturnes, and all of a sudden it's just like when I was younger, comic books were like
Preludes
bing
and
bang boom.
Nocturnes. Wow.
And it's like, wow, this stuff is like literature.
Mhm.
So it's just like I get so pissed off when people like Bill Maher are like, oh, comic books are for little kids, and it's like you have no idea. Like
Yeah,
you have no idea.
that's a bad take.
Yeah,
I
man.
haven't heard him say it, but it's a bad take. I think actually, and I've said this when I was in school. I've said it to people who, we like to use comics as a medium to get children to read.
Yeah.
Because in many cases, and somebody put out a meme. I don't want. I'm gonna misquote it, but it said that the average comic uses like 1,000 more rare words than the average novel.
I could see that.
So in many cases, right, comics are kids' first foray into reading without being told to do so.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're not being told to read. They actually enjoy reading. The prose is generally at a higher level than they're normally reading at. I remember as a kid reading books and going to the dictionary of my own accord because characters would say words and I didn't know what they meant. And if my favorite character, my favorite hero was saying it, what do you mean? So I'd go to the dictionary of my own accord to learn what these words meant. Great introduction for young kids to read prolifically. Not just to read, but to read prolifically, because it also opens the door for other things. From comics, I was reading Greek mythology. You know what I mean? I was reading everything that I was interested in, and many of the seeds were from comic books.
It's so funny because I loved Thor as a little kid, but like I really couldn't get into Thor as a part of like the Avengers. Like his character in the Avengers like didn't click with me. And I started reading Norse mythology and loved Norse mythology. And then somehow, some way, I got turned on to like the Walt Simonson run of Thor, and I'm like, this is like. Then it goes from like Thor to Beta Ray Bill and all, and I'm like, this is Thor. This is the Thor that I've been waiting for, you know. And so it's just so funny how comics were the things that got me to mythology, and then the mythology was so good that it brought me back to comics because I gave Thor a second chance, which I'm so happy that I did. But I mean,
same here. I went Greek comics first. I mean, excuse me, Greek mythology first, and then Norse mythology. But I went when Hercules got beat to death. I want to know. I want to know. I want to know. So
did it go down like that?
I'm reading all of it. You know.
Yeah, man.
But yeah. Okay, so you go from collecting comic books, and at what point did it click for you? And it's like, you know what? I want to write comic books. And
so funny.
Before you answer that, it's interesting, right? Yeah. Because I'm sure half the people in the streamer that are going to watch this show at some point said they want to write or draw a comic book. And even we probably even tried in school and what have you. So not only what clicked, but what pushed you. What actually made you go from having an idea or whatever it was that gave you that idea to that actually made you put pen to paper or pencil to paper or fingertips to keyboard, so to speak?
So what happened was, like I told you, got in a car accident, had all of this time at home. What's up, Jason? Jason's awesome on comiXsensory.
Very awesome.
Just drops knowledge and awesome stuff all the time. So I had all this extra time to read, to watch movies, read comics, watch movies, and then I started college. And I have 3 degrees in journalism. I have an associate's, a bachelor's, and a master's. And I was taking like my first journalism course. And my first journalism professor was prolific about writing about gangs in New York City, Brian McDonald. He's written some great books, super nice guy. And I loved him. I like idolized him. And right at the start of this journalism class, I was watching like Highlander on the regular, the Spawn animated series on the regular. And I just came up with this character of Condry, this homeless vigilante that's like trying to find out like who killed his father. And there's so much more there. And it's like Count of Monte Cristo meets Highlander with some Spawn thrown in and all this other stuff. And I just wrote it. I didn't care. And that's been my thing. I can write. If it's dog shit, I'll fix it later. I just need to get it all out, you know? And by the end of that semester, I ended up showing my college professor the first issue, which ultimately became like Condry 0, 1, and 2. And he was like, Pat, listen, this is cool. Super hard to make money as a fiction writer. Super hard. He goes, you're a really good young journalist. He goes, you're going to get an A in my class. He's like, you've got the chops. You're an excellent reporter. Just do that. And it was just like, I'm like, so I'm just like, damn, that sucks.
But
kept writing Condry. Kept writing Condry. wrote up to like issue 10. Like I told you guys before, now I'm like up to like issue 12 or whatever. Just kept writing. And I would just, whenever I would find somebody that could draw, I was like, oh, why don't you take a shot at this, take a shot at this. And I went through like 4, and this is over the span of like, I was like 18, 19. So this is over the span of like 17 years. Every time I would find an artist that I liked, I would show them the script. And they would go, oh, this is really cool. This is different. This, and then whenever they would show me sequentials, I would be like, nope, that's not the way I want it to look. But during the 17 years, I'm covering the New York Islanders. I'm covering the Mets. I'm working for NBC. I'm doing this. So it's just like, and then I start teaching. So it's just like, but I never like forgot about Condry. Never forgot about Condry. And then I got an interview. This man emails me one day in like February of 2021. And he's like, I just started this comic book company called Lesser Known Comics. Your entertainment website, reviewfix.com. I see you got like a good following on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. Would you want to interview me about the company? And I'm like, yeah, sure, man.
Okay.
Send them some.
Let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, Condry is Patrick Hickey Jr.'s creator-owned property. My guess, assumption would be your first serious character that you intended to publish and put out. For those who don't know, I just want to set that up because we're about to get into some lesser known legacy stuff. And this is really interesting. So we may be getting some jewels, some tidbits of information here. I didn't necessarily expect, but I'm going to let you, do you. But before we do that, I want to remind everyone to like and follow comiXsense on Facebook and join our Facebook group. Check us out on Instagram, YouTube, follow us on the Twitter. Could you please tell everybody where they can follow you, where they can find your information? I want you to do that a few times throughout throughout the evening, but I want to make sure we get that out there so that people can go find you, follow you right now.
Yeah, man.
Now, people,
if you go on Instagram, we're at Legacy_Comics. If you go on Facebook, Legacy_Comics, we come up right away. Me personally, it's Patrick Hickey Jr. across all social media. I'm super easy to find. Like, there's no, I don't run around or anything. Like I answer everyone super quick. I'm going to throw the link to our website in the chat on Facebook so people can see it. That's our official website. So yeah, Legacy Comix, COMIX.com. The store is legacycomics.com/shop, and all our books are there. And that's us, man.
So there you have it right there. Legacy Comix, Legacy_Comics on Instagram. Find them, follow them. If you are a member of the comiXsense community, you already know who Patrick Hickey Jr. is. He asks the most interesting and thought-provoking random questions. And listen, really appreciate them. Really appreciate them, and encourages people to think, to participate, to be active. Really awesome, great member of the community. So you probably already know who he is if you are or have been a member of the community. If you don't know who he is, you need to know who he is. Owner, CEO, editor-in-chief of a very hot independent company, if you will.
Sure.
Legacy Comix. We're going to pick right back up where we left off. You left off. I cut you off by saying you met an owner of a comic book company called Lesser Known Comics. He wanted you to do an interview for your website, reviewfix.com, and let you have at it.
Yeah, man. And just before I get into that, I apologize for my random questions sometimes, but my thing is I want to build engagement in comics. I want people to bounce back and forth. And I want to know what people like, because if I see somebody likes Punisher or they like Deadpool or whatever, then I message them and I'm like, oh, listen, I may have something for you. So it's just like, it's like market research. I love the group. I make sure that I comment in the group every day. So if I annoy anybody, I'm sorry, but not sorry.
Say less. So, if you annoy anybody, oh well. I'm not annoyed.
Thank you.
I'm not annoyed. I really appreciate it. I think it's necessary. I think it's important. I love that people engage. I love to see you interact and engage. It always listen. And this isn't about me, but I just want to say and you probably know this because you have a page, you have an Instagram page, you have a Comic Sense page. When I created this group in 2019, I remember I had to get up in the morning and make sure I made 10 posts a day.
Yeah.
With like 30 people in the group, just to make sure that if someone was searching for a comic group, they found a comic group that was active. So to just figure out 10 things to put games. So listen, now that the community is organic and we have a dope community of contributors and people who participate and post engaging things, I'm very happy for anyone who wants to do. I really appreciate that you do that for us. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So Mark Burnell from Lesser Known Comics is like, bro, you want to interview me? And I'm like, sure. So we do an email interview. I post it on the site, get some super solid traffic. He emails me, says thank you. You know, their website's getting good traffic, blah, blah, blah. So then he's like, oh, can we talk on the phone? So I'm like, sure. He just thanks me again formally. Super nice guy. And he's like, oh, if there's ever anything that I could do for you. So I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, that's what I do. I interview independent singers, songwriters, comic book writers, video game developers, like every day. It's not a big deal. Whatever. Keep it moving. Thank you. See you later. Hang up the phone. So now at this point, Kieran Quinn and I have finished a 6-page ashcan, which eventually becomes this boy right here, becomes Condry Zero. And I'm sitting on it. And we pitched Image, Dark Horse, IDW. But we're talking, this is January, February of 2021. It's the middle of COVID. They're not taking risks on indie people right now. You know, it's like 30 seconds goes by after I hang up the phone and I'm just like, I'm going to email this guy, Condry Zero. And I send it to him and I'm like, bro, you said if there's ever anything that you could do for me, this is what I got.
I'm not going anywhere.
What do you think?
I'm just pulling a light switch.
No problem. So I'm just like, yo, this is what we got. And within a half an hour, he calls me back and he's like, yeah, bro, we need to sign you and this artist. And so basically within like the next 2 or 3 days, I negotiated my contract and Kieran Quinn's first contract in comics with Lesser Known Comics. So that's how that all happened. So from conceptualization as an 18-year-old to 4 different artists to finally finding an artist and saying, listen, there's no money in this for you. There's no money in this for me, but let's do something dope and let's try and pitch it around and let's see what happens. I'll never forget Kieran Quinn for like taking a risk on me. Kieran's awesome. He's super reserved. He's not like me. I've been called the Don King of independent comics before. I've been called like the Billy Mays of independent comics before, but because it's just like, yo, listen, we got to move shit. Like I go on podcasts all the time. I go on Facebook Live because it's like, if we're not moving comics, we can't afford to make more comics. So, I really went out on a limb and I negotiated my and Kieran's first contract and we got to work for Lesser Known Comics. And, in the beginning, everything was great. And then after I was there for 10 months, and I would say after like 6 months, I'm kind of like, and I just knew that things were not going to go my way, and that I needed to be proactive. And I needed to create an atmosphere that I wanted to work in and not the atmosphere that I was working in there. So.
Okay. So eventually you leave Lesser Known Comics. And before we get to that, how is Lesser Known Comics doing?
To be honest, I don't really go on their site like at all anymore. I do know that about 90% of the people that were there when I was there are no longer there. And the company when I was there was built around Mark Burnell writing all of these comics and bringing in other artists and bringing in artists to draw his comics. And I was the only creator known property at the time. what ended up happening now is he's not necessarily really writing much of anything now, and he has a bunch of all other people doing creator-owned stuff. So for me, I just saw it as a situation because, like, this is the thing. It's so funny to me. I pitched him the job.
Okay.
I pitched him Sarita. I pitched him Kroom. And he was like, nah, you should just work on Condry. And I'm just like, I don't want to just tell one story. I want to build a universe. Like, I want to build something special. And I didn't see that opportunity there. And then I was under contract for a certain amount of money for a certain amount of time. And I had probably like 5 months left in my contract when I got a phone call. And I may get in trouble for this and I may not, but that's okay because it's the truth. And I'm going to say it. It's just like, say it.
Just
I
be
got
careful.
of course, but it's the truth. So it's not, at the end of the day, it's not.
We
a big
like
deal.
truth around here.
Absolutely. So, let's just say I was making X amount of money. I got a phone call from Mark, and Mark said, we're going to have to cut X, by about 95%. And I married an Italian woman. So, that wasn't going to fly, especially considering the fact that I was still under contract for 5 months. So I said,
think you and I talked about this at the time.
Yeah.
I remember you were really frustrated about it.
I was super pissed because, and we'll get into like one of the other parts of it, but I was basically like, listen, just pay me out of my contract because I signed a contract. I want that contract fulfilled. And then once that contract is up, if you want to pay me this new number, we can negotiate. But you're not going to go from this to this. It's not going to happen. So then he was basically like, well, what if you do less work? And I was just like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm like, I signed a contract. I'm like, I could bring my lawyer on the phone and we could have a conversation with my lawyer. And he was just like, no. So to his credit, paid me out the rest of my contract. Then when my contract was over, I had promised him Condry 3. And at that point, Kieran wasn't done with Condry 3, but yet I didn't have a contract. So we basically negotiated an extremely lower number that was like ongoing, and he refused to give me anything formal in paper moving forward from there. So the writing was like really on the wall after that contract thing happened. But the biggest problem was I was writer of Condry at Lesser Known Comics, but then I was helping them on social media. I was getting people on the team interviews with podcasts, waving the banner, the flag, in as often as possible. Like Free Comic Book Day 2021. We had a signing. We had a signing at Bulletproof Comics. It's the biggest comic book store in Brooklyn. I did all of that work. I negotiated all of that stuff. I got that all done. We got an exclusive cover from Aldrin Buzz. I did all of that. That was all me. So my whole thing is,
Nick Alcorn had one, right? Because I remember
Nick Alcorn had a
from 3D Comics on Free Comic Day. Because I remember that's the first time I talked to you, because I had Nick Alcorn in the shop and we were selling Condry, and he called you.
Yeah.
And so I remember that's how I met you. That was the first. It was 2021 Free Comic Book Day 2021.
Yep. To Mark's credit, Mark got a couple of other people to do variant covers, but like Nick was one of them that Mark got. But like I had gotten the Buzz cover. I'm trying to see if it's over here. Oh, it's up there. I'm not gonna stand up and get it. But like so I'm saying to myself, I'm like helping these guys tremendously on social media. I'm bringing a lot of people to the table. I negotiated my own contract. I negotiated my artist contract. I got us a signing by myself in the biggest comic book store in Brooklyn. Why ain't I doing this myself? And this is like August. And I ended up leaving. My last day there was like November 1st of 2021. I called up Mark and I'm like, yeah, I need to go. And he tried to talk me out of it. And he's like, oh, I made a lot of mistakes with you. And I don't have anything against Mark. I just think that the writing was on the wall. What also was one of the big problems is like from day one, Mark's business model was to give comics away. Mark was printing comics, and he was just like, whenever you do a signing, whatever, just give them away, because we were getting paid a salary, and it was a nice salary. So I was like, fine. But every time we would go to a place, people wanted to pay, and I'm just like, we could be making a lot more money here. We could be making more books. We could be making more money. And I'm like, this business model just doesn't work for me. And then when we went to Bulletproof, that was like one of where the writing was on the wall, because it was like, I went to Mark. We had like 300 comics with us that day, and he was just like, just give them all away. And I was like, you got a store exclusive cover that the owner of Bulletproof Comics is going to be able to sell for like $20, and we're sitting on all these other comics, and he cut our pay at that point, you know. So I'm like, we can make like a ton of money at the signing and make more books and just build a brand properly. And he was just like, no. And I was just like, I wouldn't run a business this way. Can't run a business this way.
Right.
So
it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable at all, you know. So probably like within a week of that signing, I sat down with John Svedesi, who's a former co-owner of Legacy. He's not co-owner anymore. I'm the full owner. And we just came up with a business model that was sustainable, that was based off of all of my publishing experience from the video game books. So I looked at the way my publishing company, that's been in business for 45 years, has conducted business and done business. And I'm just like, that's a sustainable model. They've been in business for 45 years. This guy, the way this guy's doing business, like, I don't know if he's going to be around tomorrow. I don't know if and they're still around. Good for them. I'm happy for them that they're still around, but it's just like, and maybe their business model has changed, but their business model when I was there was not sustainable. So I'm like, let me leave now and take my stuff with me.
Let me just say really quick.
Yeah, man.
And if for no other reason than giving us Patrick Hickey Jr. as a comic company owner, comic creator, shout out to Lesser Known Comics.
Absolutely. They pledged our Kickstarter, which Mark didn't have to do. Mark's not the biggest fan of Patrick Hickey Jr. And I understand why. But bottom line is, like, from my point of view, I learned a ton from him. I learned how to not conduct business. I also learned like that, like, writing is not enough, because like Mark is, when I was there, was only a writer and a pitchman. He's like Stan Lee, writer and a pitchman, you know? And listen, you can say whatever you want about the man's writing, but he goes out there and he pitches his shit around as much as he possibly can. And he's got some really talented people there now. You know, Delgado is there now. Mark has a good eye for talent, you know? I
don't know. Kevin was at Lesser Known.
Yeah, Kevin's at Lesser Known now. You know, I wish him the best of luck over there. But the thing is, part of the reason why I lay out all of the books, part of the reasons why I letter like 90% of the books that we do, is because I never want my people that work for me to look at me and say, why is this guy the boss? You know, and that was one of the problems. Like when I was at Lesser Known, I was kind of like, I could do all the stuff that this guy could do. You know, like I feel like you should look at your boss and be like, that's why they're the boss. They got something. I'm gonna stand behind them, or I'm gonna stand by their side, and we're gonna walk through this fucking battlefield together. And instead of, like, you know, the way things were there, it was just like I was doing all this stuff, and it's, Mark preached himself as an artist first company, and he used to say that all the time. And him and I were the only people there at the time that weren't artists. So I kind of felt super underappreciated the entire time that I was there, you know, because it's like when Condry was crushing it when we were over there, and it would always be like, oh, Kieran, you're doing such a great job, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, he absolutely is, but like,
right,
you know,
right.
I created the character, I'm marketing the character, I'm going on podcasts like twice a week, I'm doing all this stuff, and it's just like, couldn't get a rub. I felt like a wrestler stuck in the mid card. You know, I felt like Dolph Ziggler, like circa like 2009. Like, give me a rub.
Cesaro.
I'm flipping and flopping all over the place. You know, Cesaro, like, yo, give me the gold. Let me run with it a little bit, you know? And
So
case in point,
well, hold on.
really
Go ahead.
funny, quick little side story. So once Lesser Known started having digital downloads of their books on their site, you could arrange the books by popularity and find out which book was the most downloaded. We used to have weekly meetings at Lesser Known Comics, and at one point, everyone's talking, blah, 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 and their books weren't moving. And I just said, yo, listen, I'm trying to give you guys advice to get on podcasts, to do this and do that. I'm like, Kieran and I are the most downloaded book in this entire imprint. That's what I said. Said it flat out. Dropped the mic. The next day on the website, you could not search for a book by popularity anymore.
Oh, wow. Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Again, shout out to Lesser Known Comics.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you though, while we're speaking about this, does Lesser Known still own those early issues of Conjury, or did they go with you when you went to Legacy?
They went with me. We've reprinted them digitally. We reprinted Conjury Zero. So this is the Legacy version of Conjury Zero. It's a holograph laminate. There's only 9 left on the store, by the way. I only printed 50 of these, so see, 0 of 50. But I made sure that, like, when I left, I had a really good conversation with Mark.
How many left?
Like 8 or 9, I'm pretty sure.
And that's on LegacyComix.com?
It's on LegacyComix.com. It's $15. You get the one of the 50, and you get Conjury 0, 1, 2, and 3 digital emailed to you. So for $15, you get the limited edition physical, and then you get kind of the first taste of Conjury 0, 1, 2, and 3 digital email to you. So it's a pretty good
J-Rob, go to LegacyComix.com. $15. You'll get the digital issue too. That's a really sharp comic. 9 of 50 left. Godfredo says he has one of the 50. Peter got his copy. Shout out to Peter. Peter's been saying some things about him. I'm pretty jealous. Peter said he met you. And
Peter used to live 2 blocks away from my house. I hand delivered one of these books to his house.
Oh, wow.
For Halloween, it's so funny. He knew that I was starting Legacy. He came to my house the day before I left Lesser Known, and I gave him a physical copy of Conjury 3 for free. And I was just like, bro, I'm starting my own comic company. And we went on Kickstarter the next day and announced Legacy. Peter knew before anybody. So yeah,
Peter has also mentioned that you are the reason he discovered comics, which is really awesome because Peter is one of our biggest supporters, one of our most important members. Hold him in very high regards. Peter is very awesome. Hold Peter in very high regards. So shout out to you both. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's get to Legacy.
Yeah.
So now you have Legacy Comics. You go and you do your own thing. You have a partner. And what do? You go right back to work on Conjury? Do you say, you know what, I have a slate of books for this universe? Because I remember one of the early books was The Job. I remember we talked about it. I remember posting it on the page. I remember you sent me some pics and some early preview pics in Messenger. So I remember The Job was one of your early releases as Legacy. And I remember it was a big Legacy push. I remember your first live. Couple guys were in that live, as a matter of fact. You started dropping videos like you're a shameless promoter. Like you go in, the page popped up, the promotion started popping up. I really love your reels. I don't know if you know, I see your reels. I love the way that you do your reels. They're really dope. You're not playing any games. So when you go into Legacy Comics and you bring Conjury along with you, do you say, okay, I'm going to look for other creators and start pushing other creator-owned properties? Do I look for creators to push these ideas that I have, or both?
I wanted it to originally be both, but real talk, I don't think I've ever said this in an interview before. The original plan, the original slate of Legacy was not going to include Conjury. I was going to keep Conjury at Lesser Known Comics, and it just felt like that as the time was coming, I'm just like, am I going to do this halfway, or am I going to do this the whole way? So it's we had The Job, we had Kroom, we had Legend of the Night Owl from Ephraim Jambalai, and we had Athos, John Svedesi's comic. So it was going to be those 4. And then I'm just we had weekly staff meetings at Lesser Known, like weekly staff meetings on Zoom. And sometimes they would be like an hour, sometimes they would be like an hour and a half. And I would go for a walk and I would put on my what's it called? I would put on my Bluetooth and I would just go for a walk and I would listen to everyone talk. And it just got to the point where I was just like, this is not fun anymore. Like, I don't want to work here anymore. Like, I remember it was my birthday, and I was on the meeting and I only wanted to be on there for like 5 minutes, and we used to go like around the horn. And I figured, like, you know what? They know it's my birthday. They'll let me go first, so this way I could just say what I'm up to, and then I could say goodbye to everyone and bounce. Like, I was the last person to speak, so it's like they kept me on the phone the entire time. And I'm just like, yo, I needs to go. I felt like Samuel L. Jackson. I gots to go. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna take Condry with me, and I feel like when I told Afram and Kieran was 100% supportive. Kieran's the sweetest man. Like, he's one of the sweetest men ever. He still works at Lesser Known. He's doing a great book with Mark over there. But they were like, yeah, it's the right thing to do. So then I was just like, all right, so then we're going to bring Condry. So then the original slate was Condry 4, which was the first 24-page Condry, the first full issue of Condry. Kroom, which is based off of a video game that I wrote the story for that's still in development. Pete Paquette, who's a senior animator on BioShock Infinite, designed the character with me. The Job, Zero.
Mm-hmm.
And Athos. Those were supposed to be our first 4. So I wanted it to be like a combination of things. I wanted to tap into that Bendis stuff and do like 2 or 3 series at the same time and really like take the role of comic book writer and editor as seriously as possible. Like, I wanted to be like a combination of like Brian Michael Bendis and like Kevin Smith and like Jim Shooter and like roll them all up into one. Like, this guy that, like, because Jim Shooter is like a fantastic writer, but he's like a suit too, you know, like. So it's like I wanted to be both of those. I wanted to be somebody that could like go on podcasts and talk for the company, but then somebody that would like could sit in the bullpen with the boys and be like, "You guys got to finish that fucking issue today." Like, I know how much work goes into this. Like, I wanted to manage those 2 things. So that's like how we kind of started off. But like, man, I'm gonna be brutally honest. Running a Kickstarter is a lot of fun, and doing a lot of promotion and doing those live videos and talking a lot and doing reels is a lot of fun. But then when you get funded, and then you have to sit down and you have to actually do the work, that's what separates the men from the boys. And it was pretty obvious after like 4 or 5 months that we had people that weren't doing what they needed to do. And basically for my 39th birthday, I decided that I was going to send my co-owner a little note and say, why don't you give up the rest of the company to me? And he did. And I was in the bank a couple of days after my 39th birthday signing, and he was signing over everything to me because we're an LLC. We pay taxes. We do all that stuff. Everything's legit. And I felt like now the work's really going to begin. And I had to announce to the rest of the team, like, I am now the sole owner of the company. And I won't get into like the rest of the stuff with John and stuff because I wish him the best and stuff. But like, I didn't know how the team was going to respond. And I remember Afram, Steve, Kieran, Joshua Adams, they were all like, let's go. And I was like, really? And they're like, this is the best thing that could have happened for the company. So it was like addition by subtraction. So we started off with like these 4 books, and then we just went from there. So like, me personally, I want to give creative creator owned properties as much of an opportunity as possible. The problem is I get a lot of writers that pitch me stories and I have to like try and find artists for them, and that's not really what I want to do. I don't want to be a studio. Like, I want to be a publisher. I want people that have finished work to come to me and be like, yo, we want to run with you. We want to be in the Patrick Hickey Jr. We want to be in the Legacy Comix business. And I've had like 3 teams do that to me so far, and we've got a bunch of books coming for 2024 where it's like, it's so much easier because now it's like I'm not helping somebody conceptualize a story, because that's like what we were doing in the beginning. We were a publisher that was acting like a studio, and I was doing so much work, and I'm still doing a tremendous amount of work, but it's just like working with a writer artist to me is so much fun because they handle everything and you're just like keeping them on task. You're like rah rah sis boom ba, you know, or you've got a team of a writer and an artist, and then all I have to do is go in there and letter the book and help them polish and stuff like that, instead of just like what we were doing in the beginning was I was literally doing everything. So many lessons learned from the beginning.
Okay, so right now your active slate,
for so we just released our full books.
Mhm.
So I'll show them to you. So
Please,
we
let
have
us see. And people are going
Door
onto the
Slash.
website. Just before you get into that, but right before you
Yeah,
get into
man.
that, people are going onto the website. They're
Yeah,
purchasing the
man.
book. Ian Michael says you only have 7 left. By the way, J.
Oh,
Rob, I'm already ahead of you on this ish. The community demands you have Peter on CSP in parenthesis, wishful thinking. Been ahead of you on that. I agree. J. Rob, I agree with you. Peter's awesome, but I've already, when I had you come on, Jay, I already had Peter in mind as well. Cat out of the bag. Peter doesn't know about it. Jay put me on the spot. So I'm just going to say that. So that's what that is. Peter, I'll be reaching out to you at a point in time or another. Listen, go to Legacy Comix on Instagram. Go to legacycomics.com when you get a minute. Peruse the website. Buy something.
Ian Schroeder, thank you. Like we already got a Conjury Zero order. Oh, I'm like,
Buy something. Buy something.
I
Shout
love
out
it.
to Ian too. Ian kicked
Yeah,
it with
man.
Patrick
Thank
some
you.
months ago. We got some of
Yep.
Patrick's books. We made them available in our live stream. It was really awesome. I think they lasted 10 seconds.
It was great.
Yeah, I
I
think
was
they
crying.
like 10 seconds and they were gone. And so Ian asked me, should we do something with Legacy? I was like, yeah. But as Patrick just explained, when you are running the show and things begin to materialize, sometimes you get overwhelmed. Listen, so now you got to show the money. It's a lot of work. You guys know I used to put out a lot of content, can't put out as much anymore. Trobes and I are doing so much. And Ian stepped in and I said, you know what, Ian? You don't have to ask me. I'll tell you that Patrick's cool because he's cool. Reach out to Patrick. Let me get back to me. Let me know what it is. We're willing to do whatever Patrick needs. We're good with that. Patrick, we arranged a thing. We received the books. We made them available to our community. It was a really awesome experience. 10 seconds.
Really.
Easy 10 seconds. They were gone. Gone. And it just
I
speaks
love
to the
that book
quality
too.
of product that you're putting out. Many of the people, as you see, many of the people in our community have nothing but good things to say about your work. I have some of your work. I've had your work since 2021. So I'm a fan as well. So then,
Yeah, man.
I was asking you to show us your slate.
Sure. So for the full, we put out 4 physical and we put out 1 digital exclusive. So and also the thing that is really cool about us, so we do physical, digital, and we have trading card QR comics. So I'll show you guys an example really quick. So this looks like a trading card in the front, but in the back you've got a little like story about the comic, like the synopsis, but right under my fingers is a QR code. You scan the QR code, the comic opens up on your phone, your tablet. But this is the thing. In high definition, the it's like 300 resolution. It's super big. Like imagine if you were able to like look at like your favorite splash pages from like the 90s and have them be like in Photoshop format where you could zoom in and see all the lines and stuff like that. So we try and do something really unique with this. And I'm gonna say, Ian, this is gonna be in your shipment. Anyone that orders tonight is going to get Brooklyn Bleeds #1, the trading card version, in their order. So we charge $8 for shipping because we, Gemini box, bag and board, the whole 9 yards and stuff like that. But anyone that orders tonight is going to get, I'm just taking the plastic off so you can see it a little bit better. They are going to get Brooklyn Bleeds #1. This is such a badass book. And then all you do is flip it around. Yeah, go to Fredo. We have a Patreon too. If you guys go to Legacy Comix on Patreon, and we post work in progress of all of our comics, so you get to see it behind the scenes. It's $3 a month just to like check out all of our new stuff. So, but anyway, our slate: digital, physical, and trading card form. This is Door Slash. So this actually takes place in the Conjury universe. You are going to see this character in Conjury. And he is a serial killer that uses food delivery apps to find his victims. It is so much fun. It's essentially an 80s horror movie, like come to life. I mean, I don't want to give away like too much, but hey, you know what? Let's have fun. There you go. That's a page right there. How's that for you?
Oh wow.
I mean, yeah, man.
Awesome.
Like it's like
that was
straight
coming.
out of an 80s.
I was gonna say show us a page. Show us a page.
Yeah,
it was
man.
coming.
Chris Booth crushed this ash can. It's freaking awesome. Chris Booth, if you guys like Young Condry, same artist. We've gotten a really good
shout out to Chris Jules Booth, by the way.
We've gotten such good feedback on this. It's been out since Halloween that like one of my readers like made this for me and sent it to me. Like, I mean, it's crazy. But anyway, that's one of our first books. Then we have The Cannibal and the Causeway. That's a pretty dope cover. That's a Chris Booth cover too. So when I was at NBC, that's when that infamous like bath salts Cannibal was like running loose in Florida. But the thing was, I was an editor at NBC at the time, and I got a call from another editor in Florida, and they're like, "Can you watch some closed circuit video for us and let us know if we should write about this?" And I literally watched this naked man walk over to a homeless man, rip his clothes off, and proceed to eat off his face until the cops came, and the cops just kept pumping shots in this guy, and he kept running at them, and I'm watching it on closed circuit TV. It was one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my entire life. And what happened was, Nick Alcorn was going to do like a true crime anthology in like 2021, and he's like, "Pat, you want to write something?" And if you guys don't know Nick Alcorn, super talented artist. Ain't No Grave. It's like one of my favorite indie comics. I want to see more of Ain't No Grave. And he was like, "You want to write something for me?" And I'm like, "Sure." I wrote it. The anthology never happened. Nick's doing some more tattooing than comic book art and stuff like right now. But I didn't want that story to like go to waste. So I messaged Nick and I'm like, "Nick, you mind if I kind of like take that story back?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." So we ended up doing The Cannibal and the Causeway. And the crazy part about like our full slate is I had two artists that kind of like just like flaked out on me. One did pencils and inks and then like disappeared, and then another one did pencils and inks, but like the inks weren't where they needed to be, so I needed to bring in other people. And Bella Isa from Venezuela, super talented writer, they artist, they did Croom with me. They did the pencils and the inks on this book, and I had no colors on it. And I went to Chris Booth and I was like, "Bro, I need you to do colors on this." And in record time. And Chris totally nailed it. So if you remember that Bat Souls killer, you'll love this book because it's from the cop's point of view. And it's like I've done a whole bunch of research, and that poor cop like wakes up in the morning, didn't even want to go to work, and then somebody just like knocks on his window and it's like, "There's like a dude eating somebody's face," and he just like runs out of his car. So The Cannibal and the Causeway, super super fun. Then we have the fourth chapter in our Brooklyn Bleeds saga. This is Brooklyn Bleeds Team Up. This is totally like akin to like Marvel Team Up. Like we tried to make it like a super old school cover. Steve Conjay, who's the artist on the job, crushed this cover.
Yeah, cover's fire.
It's so good. And guys, again, if you order Brooklyn Bleeds Team Up today, just from me, just from tonight, I will throw in the original Brooklyn Bleeds, so you kind of get a whole big chunk of the story. But like this totally, Joe Dunn did this, and he's from New Jersey. He's totally got that old school, Jack Kirby kind of style going on. It's really good looking. It's really different. And Brooklyn Bleeds is a zombie book that the animals are the main characters. So when you think of like The Walking Dead, there's like Daryl, there's Rick, there's all these guys, but no one ever like says, "What the fuck happened to Spot?" Like the dog during the zombie apocalypse. So Brooklyn Bleeds, the narrators of these books are the animals and how they're affected during the zombie apocalypse. So Brooklyn Bleeds, the first one, takes place in Brooklyn, obviously, and this dog gets locked inside of his house with his owner, who is changing into a zombie. He's been bitten while he was out walking him, and he goes home, and the dog is just like, "Thomas smells funny. This isn't Thomas." And then all of a sudden, like the next day, he wakes up and Thomas is a zombie and is coming at him. And it's all written from the dog's point of view. So it's this gritty, guttural, like first-person monologue in dog language. So Brooklyn Bleeds continues the story. The dog meets some interesting characters, and they build up like basically like this team that has like survived the zombie apocalypse. And it's such a weird team that comes together and stuff. So it's super fun. So that's our third book. but this is probably like the granddaddy of them. This is the job number 2. We also have another cover, a 1 of 50 cover. It's probably one of our prettiest covers. This is it right here.
Oh wow, that is dope.
It's so yeah. We only did 50 of them. We've got like 20, I think, left on the site. We did a nice healthy pre-order on those. But the job is basically what you get when you combine like Mickey Rourke's The Wrestler, Two Broke Girls, and Heat with, you know, Val Kilmer and Robert De Niro and stuff. So it's Dan Dero is like the world's worst the hollow foil book is the Condry Zero hardcore fan package. It's a holographic laminate cover. Yeah, it's there.
Thank you. That's why I threw that up there. I was hoping you would.
Yeah, no problem. So it's about it's the Condry. There you go. So Dan Dero is like the world's worst professional wrestler, loses every match, but he's got a smoking hot wife, and she's his valet. She goes to the ring with him, but she's also his getaway driver when they banks together. And if you can see, every time he robs banks, he's wearing a different Lucha Libre mask. It is so much fun. Yeah, that's his gimmick. Well, the super kick is his gimmick too. Like he loves to hit the guards with the super kick, and then you got some of the masks and stuff like that. But like Bev is his getaway driver, and she's his manager in the ring, and they're basically robbing banks to pay for their pro wrestling addiction. And it's super fun. And there's this really talented cop that's on their tail. So it also takes place in Brooklyn. It's in the same universe as Condry. So in this issue, Condry is in here. It's an Easter egg. You will see him. He's also in the Job Zero. You will see him if you pay close attention. So all of them are eventually gonna like cross paths. But it's just like my kind of like homage to like Quentin Tarantino, where like every character has a story to tell. So it's just like if you play Fallout, a lot of the NPCs have amazing backstories, and you're like, that could have been like another character. We could have played the game with him. So when I'm trying to build out like
or faction,
when I'm trying to build out a series, I'm like, well, how could these characters later intermingle with, you know, who else we have? So Condry and the Job take place in the same universe. That's
so at this point, it seems like many of the characters that you've created would be at odds with Condry.
Like, in a way, yeah. I mean, because
Condry would probably want to kill them.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Door Slash is going to be interesting. How that guy interacts with Condry. The thing is, like Dan and Beverly from the Job, they're not necessarily bad guys. You know, like they're robbing banks and stuff like that. But like, this is like their American dream story. Like Dan has a rule that he doesn't use his gun. It's a prop to him. He'll hit somebody over the head with it, but he won't fire it. You know, he's about getting in and getting out as fast as possible because they got to wrestle that night. You know, like he don't want to hurt anybody. He just wants money. He wants to make his wife happy. Right. He wants to make his hot wife happy. He wants to keep gas in the car. He wants to, you know, So I don't think Condry would necessarily have a problem with like Dan and Beverly, but like there's a couple of other characters like that are in that universe that are being built out, because Condry doesn't necessarily have a rogues gallery yet. He's got like the one guy that he's after, but I wanted to build the rest of the universe around him. So yeah, man.
Okay, so now we know your current slate, and again, I need to encourage everyone: go to legacycomics.com, buy something, do it. Go to Legacy Comix, Legacy_Comics on Instagram. If you have not been following Patrick Hickey, you need to be following Legacy Comix. You need to follow Patrick Hickey. You need to follow their page. You need to follow their Instagram. This is a no-brainer. I'm not speaking to the people in the audience. I'm speaking to the people that will be watching this on YouTube in the future. And speaking of YouTube, I need you to like and follow Comic Sense on Facebook and join our Comic Sense Facebook group. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Instagram. Find us on Twitter. Find Patrick Hickey on Instagram. Find Patrick Hickey on Facebook. Find Legacy Comix. So shout out your team, because I know that you have a team.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
I definitely want to make sure that they get some of these flowers too. So I want to give you the opportunity to shout out your team as well. And then there's a couple things I want to ask you.
Sure. So I just want to make the record completely clear that I am not an artist. I am a writer. I am a pitchman. I have taught myself how to letter, and oh my god, I just finished lettering a book yesterday, and I was like, I'm getting good at this, but I'm still like, I'm not an artist, you know. So it's just
Was
like
that
I
a
would.
voice from a character, or was that a Patrick Hickey?
No, that was just Patrick Hickey. Like it was like I had to go pick up my daughter from school at like 2:15, and it was like 2:10, and I had lettered like 10 pages in like 4 hours, and I'm just looking over the pages in InDesign, and I'm just like, I could hear like Robbie Liefeld in the back of my head, like talking about like the Z that like good lettering does and stuff like that, and I'm just like, this looks good. Like if I didn't do this, I would be okay with this, you know. So it's like, but still, just letters on a page without any art does not a comic make, you know. You need great artists, and Kieran Quinn was he was my first round pick, my first pick in the first round, because like he did the Job Zero, he did Legend of the Night Owl Zero, he did
Number one
Conjuring
draft
4.
pick.
He was my number one draft pick. You know, but then as we moved on, I took him off of the job because while I think I can write 3 series at the same time, to put like one artist on 3 series is way too much pressure for one person. That's not fair. So Steve Conjay had done a variant of Kroom, and I was just like, this dude is so talented. And then he ended up doing, the Bram Stoker Foundation reached out to me, and they're like, oh, we have 200-year-old unpublished notes of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Would you guys like to do a Dracula prelude, you know, prequel comic? And I'm like, sure. So we hired Steve to do that, and that's called Renfield Visions of Madness. That's up on our website, and I love that. And working with Steve was such a pleasure. And his anatomy is really solid. And when you think about it, I mean, if you're a wrestling fan, wrestling is all anatomy. It's all faces and like a DDT, then the head goes here, a suplex. If you're going to do a wrestling comic, I mean, you need to know anatomy. And I'm just like, Steve is the guy. So then we put Steve on the job, and he's done the job 1 and the job 2 with me. And that's been an absolute pleasure. Then we brought in Joshua Adams, who did Sarita with me. And dare I say, like Sarita right here. This is probably like the best.
You're getting the
like,
same question I asked you before we came on the air. No, I'm sorry. Go on.
No, that's okay. Sarita, I dare say, is the best single issue of a comic that I've ever written.
Wow.
It hits hard. And Joshua Adams' art on this is like, it's some of the best that we've ever done. And then Josh has done a whole bunch of stuff from us moving forward. He just finished. My daughter is 6. She actually wrote her first comic.
Really?
Yeah, about 2 months ago. We're actually going to announce it next week. We're going to have a kids comic, because it's like, I feel bad because all these little kids come to our tables at signings, and I don't want to sell them Condry, you know? So I'm just like, I went to my daughter. I'm like, you want to write a comic? And she actually wrote something that was readable. And I'm super hard on people, and I'm super hard on my kids. And she wrote it, and then I ended up scripting it and playing with it and stuff. And I went to Josh. I'm like, Josh, you think you could draw this? And it came out great. We're going to announce it next week. It's called My Brother and the Ladybug. So it's definitely not for like us, but like for if a little girl comes, when a little girl or a little boy comes to the booth, I could be like, well, your dad could take home Doorslash, but you could take home this. Like, it's about, again, creating an environment that's as inclusive and, you know, for everyone. So Joshua Adams, super, super talented artist. Then Chris Booth had actually submitted his stuff to my former co-owner. And my former co-owner was like the chief creative officer of the company. And he worked with all of the artists. But then, like, as time went on, all of the artists were coming to me. So that was like one of the reasons why I'm like, I should just run the whole show, because all of these artists are coming to me. Anyway, so then what happened was Afram Jambalai, who writes The Legend of the Night Owl, and you guys have seen that one. That series is super dope. That series is like Streets of Rage on the Sega Genesis in comic book form. Like it's like a beat 'em up in comic book form. It's so much fun. And Afram has a lot of ties to like the theater community in New York City and in Buffalo and stuff like that. And he had crossed paths with Chris, and we had this awesome conversation. And Ish, you'll appreciate this. The dude made a Shockmaster reference during like his job interview on Zoom, and I'm just like, yeah, I like you.
Like
I was like, I like
just
you.
read. I really read. I really,
Yeah.
really read.
You know,
Shockmaster.
And so I was like, okay. So he did Young Condry, and you guys sold that book in 10 seconds. His art on that book is dope. He's doing we're actually doing a book in December that's going to be available for free on our site. We're doing a book for a off-Broadway theater production.
Oh, we were going to get to that. That's the post that says we're going to Broadway.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
So Chris is doing that book, and the art on that book is fantastic. And Chris is under like a tremendous amount of pressure to deliver, and he's done an amazing job so far. So then we've got a whole bunch of great variant artists out there. Valentin Quinones, Joshua Mariah. We signed another variant cover artist 2 days ago. We're going to announce that during the week. So next week we're announcing a new variant cover artist and two new books in January. And then our other writer on the team is Afram Jambal. And like I said, Legend of the Night Owl is one of our, it's one of our hardcore reads. Like it's like one of our top 3 or 4 books. So Afram has done a great job bringing that series to life. So that's pretty much like the team. It's only like 5 or 6 of us, and then we've got some variant cover artists that come in and out, and people that I give opportunities to. But we're definitely trying to build. I don't want to write 70% of our slate anymore. Like this whole full slate, I wrote everything. I don't want to do that.
Tough. That's got to be tough.
Absolutely.
Really, really has to be tough. Do you have other writers working with you, or is it predominantly you now?
No, it's I mean, all of the, like, I'm lucky that in the fact that like with Door Slash, Chris and I came up with the concept together. And he kind of like plotted out a good chunk of it, and then I scripted it. So like we co-created and co-wrote that, but like the job is like 100% mine. Condry is 100% mine. Brooklyn Bleeds is 100% mine. Kroom is 100% mine. Dem Goals is 100% mine. So, but the thing is, it's like I get pitched comic book scripts like every day, and the first question I ask is, do you have an artist? And they're like, well, I was hoping that you could find an artist for me. And in my head, I mean, I told you this a little while ago, like it took me close to 20 years to find Kieran. And I feel like that's made this so much more worthwhile for me, because I know how hard it is to like put a project together. And I feel like if I just spoon feed somebody an artist, they're not going to appreciate it. They're not going to appreciate it as much. And I feel like if someone pitches me a script without an artist, it's not the same as like somebody pitching me a finished project. So like another book that we came out with because we came out with 2 digital books in the fall too. One is called The Bad Guy.
Okay.
And it's about a pro wrestler who's dealing with like something crazy in his personal life involving his wife. And I won't go too deep into it because I don't want to give it away, but it's like it'll hit home for a lot of you guys.
Now,
but then at the same
digital release.
This is just digital, and it's done awesome. It's our best-selling digital book already in like
now.
A month.
Is it in the same universe as The Job?
No, it's completely of its own accord. But the thing is, it's like it goes from like this wrestler dealing with this personal matter, to him being in a hair versus hair match, like wrestling match. So it's like it's so great that it goes from like this touch of humanity and emotionality to like this really wacky match that he's in the middle of. But the thing is, like Gordon Holmes, the writer artist, he pitches this to me and pitches it to me as a completed book, and he's just like, I want you to be the guy to publish it. I want, so it's just like, I feel like if someone pitches me like that, that's the way I want to work moving forward. Like that for me, like as a publisher is the smartest way, because like these people have more skin in the game because they came up with the concept themselves. They did all this stuff themselves, instead of them going, oh, well, I have a script. You find me an artist. You do this, you do this, you do this. And I'm just like, but what are you doing? So that's kind of like the situation that I want to be in moving forward. I have nothing against like finding artists for writers, but I had to like truly believe in the script. And there's just a lot of echoes going on now. Like I feel like a lot of the scripts that I'm reading, people are like, oh well, this book takes place in a multiverse and it's got this team of like young mutants, and I'm just like, bro, this is gonna sell like 3 copies. Your mother, your father, and your sister are gonna buy it. And like,
everyone recreates Wolverine, right? Like
yeah, and it's like, let's do something. Let's do something a little bit different.
He never stops. He's really he's yeah, I get it. I get it. Like everyone is created, you know, the characters.
It's hard. It's hard. You know,
very, very hard. I remember Todd McFarlane was asked about reading comics, and he said he stopped reading comics when he wrote Spawn because he didn't want to be indirectly influenced by what he saw in other comics. So he stopped reading them, which is very interesting. Because you know, you're gonna see that. Everybody's gonna give you the next X-Men script. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard.
5 guys. One of them is on crutches, but he's their leader. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And it's hard too from like a publishing point of view, because it's like we're not a vanity publisher. I have never asked any of my writers, any of my artists, any of my inkers, anyone to give me a dime. So it's like when you sign a publishing deal with Legacy Comix, we pay for the printing of the book. We handle all of the distribution. Like if you publish a book with us and it sells no copies, I'm at a loss.
Right.
Not you.
And you guys are doing all of the distro, right?
Yeah. Right now. Sure. And we're starting to get into some comic book shops in New York City, which has been good. But like when you're running print runs of like 500, 700 copies, it doesn't make sense to really do a lot of consignment stuff with a local comic book shop, because
I understand
it costs like let's just say the book costs $6. The local comic book shop wants to make money too, so they'll be like, oh, we'll buy it off of you for $3. So, but the thing is, if you're paying your team like in royalties, you just cut their royalty in half by selling to the local comic book shop. You know, so the way that I pitch comic book shops is I'm like, yo, let's do a signing, and we're only gonna sell signed copies of the book, and we'll cut you in at like, 30%. So you're still making your $3 a book, but we're making $7, and then they don't have to buy any books off of us. So we're only there for like 3 hours. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. We all make money, and then we leave. So we're, so that's kind of like, and it's worked out really good for us. We've done like easily like 30 signings in the past 2 years in a whole bunch of different places in Brooklyn.
It's interesting. Signing makes it a little bit more special too. People seek out those things. And so generally your distribution is you're shipping or like you're getting in shops. So your people are aware of you, obviously, because you're a shameless promoter. You're one of the best promoters around. But they're going to the website, they're seeing your book, and that generally encourages it. What follows is a package being sent, or you're in comic shops. Okay, I'm just trying to get so
So it's like signings, conventions, and the website. That's kind of like that's the way we So we
conventions are big for y'all then. So you're at all of it. Everyone you can go to.
We try and do as many as we can, and we try and make it as productive and experience as possible. And then the thing is too, like I've been lucky because of my ties in the video game community, where like I was able to bring like 300 cards with me to PAX East last year because I was doing a panel for WrestleQuest, and I just threw on my Instagram, guys, I got Brooklyn Bleeds cards, and I had people coming over to me. I one day I sold like 50 cards, and people from the video game company that I work for, they're like, man, a lot of people are coming by to see you. And I'm like, yeah, they are, So it's like we sold books at MagFest in DC last year. I sold books at a video game convention in Chicago. And the place in Chicago, the Video Game Summit, they were super nice. They paid for my hotel, my airfare and stuff, because like I've written all these books on video game history. So I came there, I set up a table, and I had comics and I talked about my video game book. So it's like I will leverage every opportunity that I possibly can to help this comic book company grow. I mean, the only reason why we're doing an off-Broadway play now is because the job was originally written as a play. The actor that the actor the actor that, is doing this play, he said to me, "How come you've never written a play before?" And I was just like, "Bro, give me a deadline and I can write a play." And I wrote the job as a play. And then COVID happened and it went out the window. So I'm like, let's do it as a comic. And then, 2-3 years later, he's like, let's work again. Let's work together again.
So now it is going to go to Broadway.
Well, the play is called, it's James McClure's Lone Star. So it's about a man that comes home from Vietnam. It's like a dark comedy. But I would say there's a really good chance at the job being a play at this point, like extremely good chance at that, like original script being realized as a play now. So
okay. Yeah. So I want to ask you some other questions, some random comic related questions. Absolutely. But before we do that, I just want to give you an opportunity to say anything that you feel you would like to say about the things that you're doing, Legacy Comix. And then we're going to get into Ish's random questions.
Sure. This is a hustle every single day. Like I wake up, 4:00 in the morning, Monday through Friday. And I walk about 2 hours to work on purpose because 5 or 6 years ago I was 400 pounds and I couldn't do that. So I walk to work.
Congratulations.
And thank you. But I walk to work and I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm talking to artists and I'm talking to writers, and I'm taking all that time, trying to build the company before I start work. And it's like, every order that we get at Legacy Comix, I pack myself. I bring it to the post office, or my wife brings it to the post office and stuff like that. Like I run this company like out of my garage. I have our comics right here, and like the reason why I named this company Legacy is because, like, away from my video game books, this is like something that I want to leave behind. We have gotten significantly better at what we do from the first Kickstarter. Like when I look at the first Kickstarter books, I think they're solid, but like when I look at the Job 2, Young Condry, Door Slash, I'm just like, and then when you guys, I dare any of you guys to go on our website and download that free book in a couple of weeks when it's available, that Lone Star comic, and say that it's not fire,
right.
And we did that on purpose because like that was a work for hire project for us, and I worked out in the contract. I'm like, I want this book to be available digitally on our website for free because I wanted us to have an entry point for people, because I know $5 or $6 for some people is a lot of money, and if they piss away $5 or $6 on a comic that they don't like, it hurts inside. So my whole thing is, if we have a free comic on there that you read and you're like, yo, this is well written, this is well laid out, this is professionally done, now I'm going to take the splurge and buy Condry 4 or buy Legend of the Night Owl or buy this, then we're in business. So like I'm about like building long-term customers, repeat customers, and it's hard.
That's what it should be about, though.
Yeah.
That's what it should be about.
Absolutely.
Taking care of people, creating customers, and not, just getting it down. Like I want to make a customer. So that's really what it should be about. I think it's really awesome. I want to say again, I can't say enough. It's really awesome what you're doing for those people. Well, first of all, your USA Ma 5011. Thank you for watching. Thank you for checking us out on YouTube. Give us a like, maybe give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I will tell you that watching alone for any period of time certainly helps. But find us on our Comic Sense Facebook page and group. Find us on Instagram. Find us on Twitter. I'm here with Patrick Hickey Jr. of Legacy Comix, a man of many hats. We just had a real dope conversation about some Condry stuff. The job. Listen. Y'all know the website. Y'all know the credentials. You see Patrick on Comic Sense every day. You will see Patrick on Comic Sense every day. There is no reason why every member of this community doesn't have Brooklyn. There's no reason why every member of this community doesn't have Brooklyn Bleeds. The Job. Any of these books from Legacy. Any of these books from Legacy. There is no reason why you shouldn't have any of these books. We support people in our communities. This is the reason why we have Patrick on the show. Patrick is a member of the community. Patrick, I could just reach out to Patrick today and say, hey, Patrick, you want to come on? Patrick's like, yo, what time? I give him some times. He's like, man, let me figure it out. Got it. We good. Just like that. This is what this community is about. We give back to each other. Really, really give back to each other. We support each other. This is what the Comic Sense community is about. Really happy to have Patrick on. I'm going to ask Patrick some random questions just because this is what I want to do. And we'll get back to it. But Patrick, Wonder Woman or Storm?
Ooh, that's hard.
It's tough, right? It's tough,
it's
right?
It's like, yeah.
Listen, you can't have my answer. You have to pick one, but my answer is both. But you have to pick one. You have to pick one. You got to pick one. That's really tough, right?
I just feel like Storm like has been through so much more. And I know like Wonder Woman is obviously has lived longer and stuff, but I feel like if you compare like what Storm has had to go through in her existence, and you take like that same amount of time and give it to Diana, like, yo, Storm is like just as much a warrior as like Diana could ever be. And but the thing is, like, for me, chick with a mohawk, like, yo, that hot ass rocker chick, like that the first time I saw Aurora, I was just like, yeah, man, she's a badass, you know. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Storm. I'm sorry. And the thing is, I'm more of a Marvel guy. I read everything, but I'm more of a Marvel guy. I love Storm. Storm's awesome.
Storm, good choice. You could in my book, you couldn't have picked the wrong choice.
Nah, yeah, absolutely.
You couldn't have picked the wrong choice.
Absolutely. And I love Wonder Woman. I do.
Yeah, me too. That's the thing.
You know, that George Perez run, like, I mean, come on, man, that's classic stuff.
Your USA Ma says Aurora of Themyscira. You remember the amalgamation from Amalgam Comics of Storm and Wonder Woman? So that was really dope. Really, really dope. Yep.
That was a fun time.
Yeah, I think your USA Mama says the Amazonian. So that's the Christopher Jules Booth is shouting out Door Slash as well. Okay. So
Chris Booth will try and sell a lady in a white dress a ketchup popsicle. Like, he is such a he is so good.
Okay, next question.
Yes.
Favorite X character?
Wolverine. Yeah, I mean, to me, like, I love Gambit.
That's what you're going with.
But I mean, it's hard.
You know the running joke when people say, when they say, you read comics? Yeah, I read Marvel. Yeah, who's your favorite character? And then they say Wolverine.
Well, he's not my favorite character.
Right. His favorite X character.
Yeah. But the thing is, too, I will say, I am super partial to Whilce Portacio's Iceman. Whenever Whilce Portacio would draw Iceman, I would just be like, yo,
so awesome.
Like, oh, like Iceman never, like,
his Storm.
I'm like, Iceman is the shit. Like,
he made Iceman look serious before we found out he was Omega.
Yep. I love Nightcrawler. Got a soft spot for Nightcrawler. Have a soft spot for Colossus, you know. But yeah, man. And you know what it is? Maybe because my dad's favorite Marvel character is Wolverine. And it was like he had the Wolverine sticker on his truck and blah 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 blah. And you know, I have the Wolverine helmet right here that John Theory made me. You know, I was Wolverine for Halloween this year. So
right. I think you show pictures of that as well.
Yeah, you know, but it's just you know what it is too? I didn't really appreciate Wolverine until that origin run. And a lot of people a lot of people shit on that, but like that was a lot of fun.
It was,
you know, reading that. You
some of it was, but it was overall was pretty fun. It was really fun. It was really fun. You got to find out some side of Wolverine that we kind of figured existed, but we'd never seen. Okay, so
Wolverine, but like Iceman is a close second. You know?
Whilce Portacio's X-Men for me, next to Mark Silvestri's X-Men, his very short run on X-Men, phenomenal.
And X Factor, his stuff on X Factor.
X Factor was yeah. But for me, like X-Men was my team. So that run between like 280 to 290 with that cover run where you get the Storm kissing Forge cover and you get the Storm in the rain, and that whole run like was just gorgeous cover after gorgeous cover after gorgeous cover from Rules Portasio. I think he did some of the top, in my opinion, Storm covers in all of X history. And they love to do Storm covers. Okay,
Sure.
So my next question: favorite comic to read right now that is not a Legacy comic?
World Tree.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That was a surprise. That was a surprise.
Yeah.
Favorite Legacy comic?
Of like of the new stuff, like the relatively like new stuff. I would say like favorite comic that's like not Legacy of like the past 15 years for me, like The Goon, Eric Powell. I love that I love that series. That like always hits like a soft spot for me. Who else do I like that's like different and not in Legacy? Joanne Vasquez, John Backderf, who did My Friend Dahmer. Like there's a lot of like there's a ton of stuff that I love. Like the Donny Cates Venom stuff I thought was really fun. I had so much fun reading that stuff. But yeah, like a series that like I'm invested in right now, enjoying is World Tree. Yeah.
Okay.
I've really enjoyed that so far. That's been
that was a surprise.
Yeah. Why?
That was a surprise. I just didn't expect World Tree. That was really quite a surprise. World Tree is really, and I don't want to knock James Tynion. I support James Tynion. I support creators. James Tynion has this habit of writing something really brilliant and then phoning something else in that he's writing. You know what I mean? Like he'll give you something. And listen, everybody loves Something That's Killing the Children. I think it's great. The writing, you can read the book in 5 minutes or less. Every issue, 5 minutes or less. You're not going to read World Tree in 5 minutes. You weren't going to read Nice House on the Lake in 5 minutes. In Department of Truth, you're not going to read. It's not a 5-minute read. Whereas The Closet was like a 3-minute read.
Yeah,
and it was a thicker book, but it was so. It was thicker, but it just wasn't dense with words at all. Okay. Yeah. So
the clear I enjoyed a lot this year too. That was a lot of fun when they released it physically. Finally, I thought that book was beautifully done. Like that book just looks so badass. So
you're reading every issue of World Tree. It's the must read every week.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing though too. Like, since I started lettering, and then since I started the company by myself, my reading has gone down. I haven't been reading as much. Like I got like the first 3 issues of Batter Blood, the Deadpool, because Liefeld is just like, to me, is a lot of fun. It reminds me of when I was like 11, 12 years old and the feeling I used to have at the newsstand and stuff. But like I haven't caught up with like issue 4 yet and stuff. So I've got to catch up. But like World Tree has been the one consistent because like I just moved to like a new borough in New York City. So I have a brand new LCS. So, but like out of all the books that I was reading before, I was reading Red Goblin. I was picking up all of those. There was a couple
I remember you were reading Red Goblin and actually posting on Red Goblin. You quite enjoyed
Red
Goblin.
The first 4 issues were like really good. And then I moved, and then the new LCS didn't have like 5 and 6. And then I was just like, shit. But then I made sure, like I was so into World Tree that like when I was in Chicago, I made sure that I picked up like the new issue and I read it on the plane on the way back. So yeah.
Okay. So this one is really, really simple. Marvel or DC?
Ooh.
Yo, it's gonna be some pissed off people.
Yeah, there are. If I had to pick one, Marvel. But the thing is, like, I don't discriminate.
Yeah,
if I
same.
see a book,
same here.
You know, if I see a book like that, there was the that Clayface one shot earlier this year. Oh my god, I had so much fun reading that. You know, but the thing is, like, I'm really attracted to like I like a lot of Dark Horse stuff. I like a lot of IDW. I like a lot of Skybound stuff. I mean, I technically work for Skybound because I'm a voice actor, you know, on WrestleQuest, and that property is owned by Skybound. So it's just like I'll read anything, you know. So it's like video games. Like if I scrolled you around this room, I've got 4,000 video games from like Atari to like Atari to like modern consoles, like Frogger on Atari. You know, like I don't discriminate, you know, like so yeah, the short answer is Marvel. And probably a lot more Marvel right now than DC, but I would love for that to change.
I mean, there's some DC books I'm reading right now. Wonder Woman is just phenomenal.
Yeah,
really good. It's only 2 issues in. Really good cover to cover. Like Wonder Woman's really good. And you know, I'm a Wonder Woman fan.
Batman run was awesome. I enjoyed the hell out of it. You know,
the most recent one, Zdarsky.
Yeah. No, the what's it called? The Mark Silvestri Batman run that he just finished.
Which one?
Mark Silvestri did like 7 issues of Batman. Was that last year? That might have been last year.
I mean, there's a lot of Batman books out right now.
It was with Joker when him and Joker were a team.
Yeah. I know the one you're talking about. The one that just I know exactly.
It took Silvestri like a million years to finish it and stuff like that.
A long time. Just recently finished. I know exactly the one you're talking about.
But that was a lot of fun. Like
I don't know why the name is eluding me.
Yeah, it's eluding me
because you got like the shadier version of the Joker.
Yes,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay,
but I read all of those. You know, so I bought all the single issues of it.
There it is. Right there, Batman Joker Deadly Duo.
Yep. Steve Condrey, the artist on the job. Me and him went to the comic book store and we're like, we're getting this because Silvestri. I mean, whenever he does something, you got to pick it up. It's Mark Silvestri, you know. So
Deadly Duo, and Jerry Lang says it is hard to choose between Marvel or DC. Both have had their share of genre and industry changing runs on books. This is true, and it is hard. That's the reason why.
Sure.
That's actually the reason why I threw that question on the table. A couple questions I threw on the table because I don't want them to be easy, especially the Wonder Woman Storm one. That's a tough question. That's really a tough question. So for me, that was a no-brainer. We know that you were influenced by people like Frank Miller, Neil Gaiman. You mentioned Alan Moore as writers. Obviously, in the early 2000s. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. You mentioned him.
Brian Michael Bendis.
Bendis brought so many people back to comics, or when people came back to comics, he was the guy. Like he was the superstar. He was the writer that made, you know, everybody looked at artists. They were good writers, but you know, a Peter David here. Listen, Image was founded by 7 artists. Not taking anything away from the writer. I'm a writer. Yeah. I used to feel some type of way about that because writing was important to me. But everybody paid attention to the artist. And in the early 2000s, Bendis made it hot to be a writer. He made it Mark really Miller, cool to be a writer. Miller was, I mean, he's Frank Miller. You know what I mean?
No, Mark Miller.
Yes. Yeah,
that's another guy, you know.
Yeah, man, I was
lucky to interview him, you know. Helped me a ton.
Listen, he did a lot. Half the stuff y'all see on TV that's superhero related, that's not from Marvel or DC, is out of the mind of Mark Miller. Like it just is. It just, and you'd be surprised. So, favorite comic growing up as a kid?
Oh, Spider-Man. For some reason, my dad used to buy me Spectacular Spider-Man and like Web of Spider-Man. Like I never got Amazing. I don't know why. And so it's like I was reading all of like these. I'm telling you, like I was getting like the backup stories and stuff. And then I remember Amazing Spider-Man 375 was like the first Amazing Spider-Man I ever picked up, and that's
gold cover,
that hologram cover. Oh,
Venom on the cover.
Venom looks so badass, and that's like post Maximum Carnage and stuff like that. Mark
Bagley artwork.
So
that cover.
Like, but I mean, I was buying all the Darkhawks when I was a little kid. Like I had terrible taste, but like I just knew like what I just enjoyed a lot of that stuff. But like favorite comic, like I through and through, like that the whole Spider-Verse, Spider-Man, Venom, like all those guys, like the Donny Cates Venom stuff for me was just so much fun, and just like totally I feel like reignited my love for that character. Like when they just had so much fun with like Null was so much fun seeing him like rip apart, what's his face? Oh my god. Who did Null rip in half? Blonde guy. Sentry. Yes, Jinx. but like all that stuff
King in
was
Black.
just King in Black was so much fun for me. But again, it's Venom, but it's really Spider-Man. It's a Spider-Verse, it's that whole, and I was hoping that new Venom series
taking Venom out of the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
I think that's where they were going. I think that they were looking to remove him. He's not a spider totem.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they were effectively looking to take him out of the Spider-Verse altogether. Certainly,
it worked.
He was born in the Spider-Verse, but I think with the edge of and then the end of the Venomverse, I think that whole thing was meant to take him to solidify him as this is Venom. There is a symbiote verse. The symbiotes are their own thing, and we've removed. There's not even a spider character with a symbiote right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of these spider characters running around. So I think that they've effectively removed him from the Spider-Verse, so to speak. I mean, and probably so. Yep. And your USA mom says as a Sony property. And I think that but Spider-Man's a Sony property too.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's why they were smart too with the new game to put them back together for the new game and stuff. So
yeah, very, very, very smart. And then the Wolverine game is coming. So favorite. And I know we already talked about this before. We picked one game that you would choose. I want to know your favorite video game series.
Ooh. It'd probably go back to Fallout. I mean, I love games in that Diablo ilk. And there was a ton of clones of them, like Baldur's Gate, Dark Alliance.
Sorry, Yoru-sama. I'm like your USA ma. I am sorry, Yoru-sama.
That's awesome.
I've been really messing it up, and she's been correcting me, or he or she has been correcting me. Sorry about that.
See, but when you said it, I saw it though. So don't worry about it. So favorite series probably like Fallout. I love Tekken though. Tekken is so much fun. Whenever a new Tekken comes out, I have a ton of Pokemon games. I'm not gonna lie. I miss when Marvel was putting out those what were the Marvel games where it was like 4 players at the same time? It was like Diablo style. Marvel Ultimate Alliance. There's 3 of them. I love all 3 of those games. It's Diablo with the Marvel characters. And the last one came out on Switch. I got it for my birthday like 3 years ago.
That's a series.
It's a series. Yeah, there's 3 of them. But like
I know
X-Men Legends.
And that's the series you would pick.
Probably, yeah, because it's like X-Men Legends 2, then they stopped making those games, and then the same developer changed it to Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and then they had 3 of those. So put all 5 of those games into one, and I would be in heaven. I love them.
All right, I got another one because I have a few. And this is broad. This is broad. I only expect one answer.
Okay.
Across DC, across Marvel, film, television, animated, favorite superhero or comic related property. If you had to pick one.
So it's across comics, film,
not comics, everything. Film, visual media, like television, film. Can be Marvel, can be DC. You can only pick one.
Whew.
It doesn't have to be Marvel or DC. It just has to be comic related.
Yeah.
I'll take a step. I'll tell you mine.
Yeah. Let's hear it. Oh, I loved Popeye when I was a kid. Love Popeye.
That's what I'm picking. It's Popeye.
Popeye's badass. And then Robin
Really?
Williams is one of my favorite
Really?
actors of all time. So when
Popeye.
Robin Williams played Popeye, I was like, yo, let's do this. Wow.
Listen, I was singing all the songs. It's Popeye for me.
I know like 3 developers that were working on a Popeye video game a couple of years ago, and then it didn't happen. And I was so pissed off because it would have been so cool
That was such a
to
great
play a
TV
Popeye
show,
video
too.
game.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
Legion.
Oh, I would have played it.
A Popeye game on like PlayStation 4. Like, oh my God, that would have been awesome. I would have played the shit out of it, you know? But it didn't happen. So, wow. If I had to pick one, man, Spider-Man. I mean, that's the reason why I know how to read, you know, like.
But which Spider-Man? We're talking televised or movie or film. But which one?
Oh, which one? That Spider-Man animated series. Did you not get hyped for that when you were a little kid? That theme song.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Listen.
No, not that one. The 90s one.
Oh, see, I didn't see the 90s one.
The 90s one, man.
I was gone. I was overseas.
That was when like Electro was a Nazi and stuff. They did some wacky shit at the end of that series. But like Venom was in it, Carnage was in it, Doctor Strange was in it, Madam Web was in it. Like it was like 94. It was like the X-Men animated series was on, and then Spider-Man was on, or the other way around. So it was Spider-Man and then X-Men. It was like Saturday morning was awesome, you know. But yeah, that Spider-Man animated series from that, or the Spawn and the Spawn HBO series, yo. That Spawn HBO series.
David
that was
Keith
some great stuff.
The voice of Spawn. J. Rob says there can only be one. And I don't know if he's making a reference to Highlander or if he's saying there can only be one. I don't know if that he's saying he would choose Highlander or if he's just saying there can only be one. I think he's just saying there can only be one. And maybe it's both.
Yeah. If it could only be one, then that Spider-Man 90s animated series. But like at the same time, too, I mean, Condry gets a lot of I know Peter loves Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Like whenever I post like a picture on Facebook or Instagram, he's like, oh my God, he remembers the episode, like everything. So but there's a lot of Highlander in Condry, like so.
Jason
Condry
made
like
it clear
Highlander
he would not choose Highlander.
Why? Highlander is so
Highlander
awesome.
Is dope. Like it's really dope, and it's coming back.
Sean Connery, like Clancy Brown. Oh, so much good stuff in that.
Yeah, they were cutting people's heads off. What more could you ask for? Especially when you're a kid, you want to watch an action movie, you turn on Highlander, and they scare you. Because they're mortal, they chopping people's heads off. Listen, man, Highlander. I
remember one night, I was like 9 years old, and Highlander came on at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I watched the entire thing, and I was just about to fall asleep, and Beastmaster came on right after.
Can't go to sleep.
And it was like,
can't go to sleep.
It was like, can't go to sleep, man. Like,
go to sleep.
Like it's on. Where's the popcorn? Where's the Snickers? Like, let's go. We're staying up all night. You know, like.
Yo, yeah, you can't go to sleep like at all.
Nope. Yeah,
I think it's the only action role that Mark Singer was in, like ever. You know what I mean? Like he was cut for Beastmaster and all of that. Like Beastmaster. Listen, Beastmaster was pretty great, great. Ian Michael says Highlander is clown shoes. Okay. I
thought I liked you, Ian.
Yo, Sama says listening storms made me think another immortal lost their heads. Listen.
Oh, lightning storms.
Lightning storms. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Lightning storms made me think another immortal lost their heads. Yeah, because that's what it was, right? Like you heard the thunder, the lightning, and immortal lost their head.
Yep.
Big Trouble in Little China was another one too with thunder and lightning. So yeah, man. Yeah, great movie, right? Great movie. Supposed to do a remake to that. So okay. Last thing I want to talk to you about, and I saw that you posted before we close out. I want you to close out with your credentials and with Legacy Comix and the whole nine. But before we do that, I would like to know: are you going to see the Marvels? I know the answer, but I would like the audience to know.
Yes, absolutely, because this is the thing. I'm not tired of these movies. Like that's the whole narrative that's being thrown out right now, that it's like, oh, there's like, everyone's exhausted from it. But the people that are exhausted from it, it's not people like us that have lived our entire lives on it. It's the people that like started getting into Marvel during the whole Avengers, Endgame and all that stuff. They jumped
Mhm.
on the bandwagon, and they're tired after like the last 10 years. But like that
Yeah,
whole
because
10 years for us
they were 10.
was yeah,
They were 10. And now they're 20, 22, 23. You know what I mean? And
yep,
so
yep,
listen, we were adults when when that franchise started. So we're, you know what I mean? And we
yep.
grew up reading these comics. So
I love when people were bitching about Flash, and I was like, bro, I was watching Captain America and Fantastic Four like straight to VHS movies and loving them because my favorite characters were in a different format. And I watched the hell out of those movies. I was okay with Dolph Lundgren being Punisher because I just wanted to see him on the big screen, So
yo,
it's just
man,
like
preach.
it just hits us different. We're from a different ilk. We're from a different breed. I ain't gonna get tired from any of that stuff.
I'm
I
not
want to
either.
see all those comics, so as
I'm from
movies.
that era where Wizard Magazine would fan cast my favorite characters, and I
All
never
day.
thought I would see them on a television screen because
Yep.
nobody took comics seriously. When
Yep.
when we were putting out the comic movies I got when I was a kid, Red Sonja, Howard the Duck. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is
Yeah,
what I
man.
got
And we love them.
from Marvel, and we loved it. Like these were flops that we
Yep.
loved, and these were from Marvel. And then obviously you had your Supermans from DC, and in 1989 you had Batman, but we didn't think we were going to see Spider-Man on screen. This
Yep.
is the reason why I had such a problem with the X-Men franchise, because I've waited for a long time. A long time for a good X-Men
Yep.
film, and that's what I got. And I
Absolutely.
wasn't dismayed. I wouldn't watch them all because we're from that era
Yep.
where we didn't get to see our heroes on the big screen. We wanted to. We would
Yep.
fan cast every. Remember when Clint Eastwood was gonna? We in our mind he was Wolverine or Glenn Danzig. Like we're just fan casting stars
Yep.
from the 80s and 90s.
Yep.
Christopher Lee, I just want to say to you real quick, when you say Immortal Thor is a good read right now, I just read issue 4. It is the best comic. Man, this L. Ewing guy. Anyway, so I'm gonna say you need to read Immortal Thor issue 4. I don't want to spoil it for you. It's great. Okay, getting back. Oh, this is a good point. Jason Robbins says Masters of the Universe in the big screen was a huge deal. I mean, seeing this horrible film too. So horrible.
Yep. But we loved it.
We loved it. We loved it. He's driving.
It's like even.
What do you mean?
I remember my grandmother rented for me the Spider-Man made for TV movies at like Palmer Video, and it was the kid, one of the boys from The Sound of Music playing Spider-Man. And like you could see the line connected to the building and him crawling up with like suction cups on his hands. But I ate that shit up because that was the only way to see real life Spider-Man. Like we're from a different era. These kids now, oh, the special effects in Flash suck. We didn't have special effects when we watched our stuff. Like they had to draw Invisible Woman invisible in the first Fantastic Four movie. Like a lot of these kids, just get over yourself. And you know what? In the meantime, too, read more and don't just wait. They just wait for the movies. Read more and then watch the movie.
Preach. He says The Flash is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But remember how good that Flash TV show was back in the day?
I love that
yep. Such a great television show. Such a great television show. So on that note, because we could do this all night, right?
Sure.
I want you to take this time to tell the people you have the floor. You can say anything that you want to say.
Okay. Awesome. Guys, one man running a comic book company out of his garage with artists in North Carolina, China, the Philippines, Brooklyn, Staten Island, Buffalo. Like I am trying to like allow people to tell kick-ass stories, and like right now I'm doing like the brunt of the writing, but I don't want that to be the case moving forward. Like in a perfect world, I would just do like The Job, Condry, and Brooklyn Bleeds, and then everything else, like we'd have a whole bunch of other stuff, but we're building out towards that. We live and die on our convention sales and our website sales, and it's a hard go every single day trying to get new people and stuff. That's why like Ish messaged me at like 9-10 o'clock this morning, was like, can you come on? I'm like, absolutely, because I will do whatever I have to do to get this brand till tomorrow. And And then when tomorrow comes, I'll do whatever I have to do the next day. It's comic book publishing is something that like so many people want to do. But then when they actually do it, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen the hashtag like comics broke me, comics killed me and stuff, because there's so many people that have lost tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like I do consulting work with 3 other comic book companies. I help them with their social media. I help them with their lettering, their editing and stuff like that. And these are people, you have people that are taking money out of their retirement to tell their stories, and they're spending money from their full-time jobs and stuff. And I have 2 children and a wife, and I can't do that. I have to run this company like as productively and efficiently as possible. And like on the back of a successful Kickstarter, I have found a way to keep us going, and by selling advertisement and by getting us into as many different places and using every single like name drop that I can, and every opportunity from education, from theater,
New York
from
hustle.
music, just trying every which way. And the thing is, like, I really believe in all of our stories. I really don't feel like we have like a bad comic. I feel like if you guys take a chance on something that we have, you'll find something that you enjoy. And that's why like we have a small community, but like we have a lot of repeat customers because they tend to like the stuff that we're doing. And right now we're just quarterly, but I would love to get us to a point where we're more than that. I would love to have a monthly comic book company, but the only way that we get there is by continuing to reach more people. So that's why I don't know of another indie comic book company that's doing a comic for an off-Broadway production. You know, we have tended to get into conventions and spaces that a lot of comic book companies don't get into as well. We've also got 2 books we're doing for film in 2024. There's 2 independent films that we're doing books for. So like we're built different. We've had a slow build for the past 2 years, but then at the same time too, 25 single issues in 2 years, that's not bad for an independent comic book company too. So we're doing really good, but the thing is we want to get to as many eyes as possible. If you don't buy something today, it's not the end of the world. Share this video, go to our page, tell me how you feel about our stuff. We just want to start a conversation. And it just goes back to me going on Comic Sense every day and saying, oh, what's the best Avengers cover that you've ever gotten? Or who's the best inker you've ever seen? Because I want to start a conversation with you and then continue it and not stop. It's like my probably like 3 or 4 best friends that I have in my entire life. I never say goodbye to them. Like we could be talking at 4 o'clock in the morning, and if I fall asleep, I fall asleep. When I wake up, the conversation continues. That's the type of relationship that I want to have with my readers. Like when we're coming out with stuff, we drop some dope stuff. You hit me up like, oh, what's next? Blah, 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 blah. And the conversation never has to stop. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to build a bunch of IP that people find a way to like get connected to, care about, and then we can just keep those conversations going on for as long as possible. That's basically like what I'm trying to do with Legacy.
And I want to encourage everybody, and this is for those who will be watching in the future or at a later date out there in YouTube land, those who may have found their way to the Facebook page and will watch this at a later date. And for those who are here listening now, you heard it. I'm going to echo that sentiment. Listen, go to legacycomics.com. Go to Legacy Comix on Instagram. Find something that you'll like, buy it. Heck, find something that you don't like, buy it. Buy a thing. You're probably going to like it. I have it on good authority that you are going to like it. Buy a thing. Support creators. This is important. This man is a school teacher. This has been an informal interview, but I'm in that promotion mode. And the reason why I'm in that promotion mode is because this man is a school teacher. This man gives back to the community in a way that I think, this doesn't take anything away from any of our individual accomplishments and how we contribute. But this man gives back to the community in a way that I think is paramount, that I think is of utmost importance. Creator owned. We want to support creator owned. We want to continue to get this type of media into the hands of people. We want to make people read. We want readers. We want readers. For me, that's ultimately what it is. So go to Legacy Comix, follow their page, follow them on Instagram, like some stuff. All of this helps, by the way. All of this helps. Just clicking a button helps. It actually helps. There are metrics behind these things, and they actually help. Look at a reel. Click on a like. Do something to help Legacy Comix. If you don't want to come out of your pocket, there's so many things that you can do. I would suggest purchasing something from Legacy Comix. But again, you go to Instagram and start liking things and watching and giving their reels views, and that puts them into the algorithm more often. The more views that they have, and it gives them more visibility, and that doesn't cost you anything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Clicking a like button, this helps them grow because it gives them more visibility. Obviously, we would like you to go to the website. We want that traffic on the website. We want you to click on a button. We want you to buy something. You will be happy. Legacy Comix is really awesome. The team they have behind them are awesome. Several of them contribute in this comiXsense community. They're members of the community. We want to empower each other within this community. We want to help each other out. We want to help each other grow. We want to help each other succeed. That is what we've been doing from day one. We're going to continue to do that. Patrick, I got to thank you, man. I hope this isn't the last time we get to do this, that we get to kick it like this. I hope this isn't the last time.
I hope it's not the last time either.
Because this is awesome, man. I want to thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you. It was short notice. You showed up and showed out. And I really appreciate it. Cannot thank you enough.
No problem, man.
I want you to just shout out to the people. Let them know we about to sign off. Then I'm going to go ahead and have the last word and tell them what time it is.
Yeah, man. Guys, thank you so much for supporting me. Thank you guys for supporting the team. Like, thank you for taking a look at what we're releasing this fall. Also, anyone that picks up something today on the site, you will get Brooklyn Bleeds, the QR card. Again, this is the cover of the book, trading card. In the back, there's a QR code right behind my fingers. You get a high resolution copy of the comic delivered to your phone, your tablet. It's in your email. You have it. You can download it as many times as possible. Pirate it for all I care. Share it with your friends. It's a great story. So that's basically that's a $6 card. That's basically like our way of saying thank you today. Shipping is $8 on your book, so you're getting a $6 book for free. Look at that, Chris Jules' booth. If you buy Door/Young Conjuring Cannibal Time, I'll hang and have a beer with you. He means it too. So yeah, guys, we've got so much cool stuff on tap. We're going to be announcing 2 more books next week. We're going to be announcing a new variant cover artist in 2.5 weeks. That free comic will be available on our site. We're going to have a billboard in Times Square that shows Chris Booth's art for this play. So I'm going to go to Times Square and kind of stick my finger up and show everyone that what's it called, his art. So I mean, we have so much cool stuff coming on the way, but we want people on the ground floor with us. It's so easy to be like, oh yeah, we just moved 300 books, oh now you're following us. No, we want people on the ground floor, growing with us. Now this is the moment to hop on this train. So thank you guys, I appreciate it. So get on board or get out of the way. But in this community, we're generally on board. Keep each other informed. We keep each other on point. That having been said, this has been comiXsensory Perception. We done had the homie, Patrick Hickey Jr. of Legacy Comix in the house, man of many hats. Really appreciate you being here. Shout out, as always, to my comiXsense community, crowd, crew. I'm Issue X. We up out of here.